rejoice and come in. Enter, rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice and come in.
Don't be afraid of some change.
Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist live and YouTube service, where we gather each week within and beyond these walls. I am Reverend Jacqueline Luck. I am a retired parish minister and a happy and proud member of this congregation. The purpose of Community Church is to form a community to practice and advance a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whether this is your first time to attend our services or your 101st time, you are welcome here. It's so good to see your faces. I must mention this date, which Carol has so beautifully adorned for us. This date, 245 years ago, on July the 4th, 1776, the delegates of the Continental Congress approved the Declaration of Independence, its final words. It actually was approved 2 days before, and then they debated for 2 days to get it finished. Stating the declaration, yes, ma'am.
You have to have the mask.
Do I have to have the mask, board member? Okay.
That's at least 6 feet.
Okay. I'm happy to do it. If you're happy to have me breathing on you. So they approved the final words of the Declaration of Independence after 2 days of debating. They stated that the 13 colonies were no longer subject to British rule. They were independent states, united in forming a new republic. Those signing knew that they would be executed if captured during the ongoing Revolutionary War, a war that began in 1775. I honor this morning their courage and their bequest to us as citizens of this great nation. It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice invoking hope, love, and eternal truth to our worship. Please join me in repeating or reading the words or remembering the words that we often say as we light the candle. We light this flame to affirm the light of truth and knowledge, the warmth of love and community, and the fire of hope and commitment.
We light this flame to affirm the light of truth, the knowledge, the warmth of love and community, and the fire of hope and commitment.
Thank you, Kelly. At Community Church Unitarian Universalist, we are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all. We believe we need not think alike to love alike. The sermon for today will be presented by Al Malone, who has been a practicing Unitarian Universalist since 1998, when he and his wife Marilyn joined the North Shore congregation. 17 years later, they decided to give up that 55-minute drive and to join this congregation, a mere 10-minute drive. We're thankful they made that decision. However, Alan has been a lifelong Unitarian, though he writes not regularly attending services until 1998. Our speaker, Alan, has participated in the shared pulpit ministry 3 times. This seminar on sermon writing and presenting has been taught by Reverend Darcy. Alan and Laura Miller plan to continue to offer the seminar to interested parties, both live and on Zoom, which should accommodate participants in other parts of the world who don't necessarily want to drive to New Orleans to participate. If you would be interested, please contact Alan or Laura and give them your information. The sermon Alan is presenting today is the product of his most recent participation in the program. He delivered it 2 weeks ago to the North Shore congregation, and he reports he got a sitting ovation. I'm sure we're in for a treat. CCUU's religious director, Cynthia Ramirez, has this morning's word for all ages.
Oops. Good morning, everybody. I'm a little tangled up here. Okay. Happy 4th of July. So I'm going to share with something. It's called A Place for My Stuff by George Carlin. I cleaned it up for y'all. Actually, this is a place for my stuff. Did you know? That's all, a little place for my stuff. That's all I want. That's all you need in life is a little place for your stuff, you know? I can see it on your table. Everybody's got a little piece of place for your stuff. This is my stuff, this is your stuff, and this is his stuff over there. That's all you need in life, a little place for your stuff. That's all a house is a place to keep your stuff. If you don't have so much stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You would just be walking around all the time. A house is just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. You can see it when you're taking off in an airplane. You look down and you see everybody's little pile of stuff, all the little piles of stuff. And when you leave your house, you got to lock it up. Wouldn't want anybody to come and take some of your stuff. They always take the good stuff. They never bother with your crap you're saving. All they want is the shiny stuff. That's all your house is a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. Sometimes you gotta move, gotta get a bigger house. Why? No room for your stuff anymore. Did you ever notice when you go to somebody else's house, you never feel quite 100% at home? You know why? No room for your stuff. Somebody else's stuff is all over the place. And if you stay overnight unexpectedly, they give you a little bedroom to sleep in. Bedroom they haven't used in 11 years. You know, someone died in it 11 years ago, and they haven't moved any of his stuff. Right now, next to the bed, there's a dresser or a bureau and some kind, and no room for your stuff on it. Everybody else's junk is on the dresser. Have you ever noticed that their stuff is junk and your junk is stuff? And you say, get that junk out of here and let me put my stuff down. Sometimes you leave the house to go on vacation and you got to take some of your stuff with you. You got to take about 2 big suitcases full of your stuff when you go on vacation. You got to take a smaller version of your house. It's the second version of your stuff. And you're gonna fly all the way to Honolulu. going across the continent, across half of an ocean to Honolulu. You get there to the hotel room in Honolulu, and you open up your suitcase, and you put away all your stuff. Here's a place here, put a little bit of stuff there, and some stuff here. You put some stuff, and you put your stuff there. And even you're far away from home, you start to get used to it. You start to feel okay, because after all, you have some of your stuff with you. That's when your friend calls up from Maui and says, "Hey, don't you want to come over to Maui for a weekend and spend a couple of nights over here?" Oh no, what do I pack, right? We got to pack even a smaller version of your stuff, the third version of your house, just enough stuff to take to Maui for a couple of days. You get over to Maui, and I mean, you're really getting extended now. When you think about it, you got all your other stuff way back on the mainland, and you got your stuff on another island, and then you got your stuff on this island. I mean, supply lines are getting longer and harder to maintain. You get over to your friend's house on Maui, and he gives you a little place to sleep, a little bed right next to a windowsill or something. You put some of your stuff up here. You put some of your stuff up there. You got your Visine, you got your nail clippers, and you put everything up. It takes about an hour and a half, and after a while, you're feeling pretty okay. Say, "All right, I got my nail clippers, I must be okay." That's when your friend says, "Hey, I think tonight we'll go on the other side of the island, visit a pal of mine, and we may stay overnight." Oh no. Now, what do I pack? Right, you gotta pack an even smaller version of your stuff, the fourth version of your house, only the stuff you know you're gonna need. Money, keys, wallet, lighter, hanky, pens, most rubbers, change, well, you know, the stuff you hope you're gonna need. The end.
That was wonderful, Cynthia. Thank you. We pause within this service to honor the joys and the concerns of the members of our congregation. It's a little bit difficult right in these times. We do have cards out front. If you didn't get one, you'd like to fill it out very quickly, someone can, oh, here they are. You can run them up to me. Someone can bring them to me. The rest of you on YouTube, there's not a way really to let us know other than if you were to call the church office and let it be put in the community matters or ask to speak to one of our pastoral ministers that are filling in right now, or maybe Reverend Darcy, I'm not sure if she's on duty right now, no. So it would just be, we do have a minister on call to help you with any matter that you have that you need to talk to a minister about. Otherwise, let us recognize and hold you in your joys and sorrows today and this morning. So I have a few cards. If anyone else would like to bring one, please feel free to come on up. Yes? Oh, okay, thank you. Now you can bring them up.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Kat just reminded me that on YouTube you can actually put in there's a chat box or something that you can put in a joys and concerns, and if you do that, she's going to bring it up to me. So please feel free to do that, and I'm sorry I was confused on that issue. I have a joy today, and I'm sorry I don't know who it's from. Joy of being here in person, surrounded by CCUU members, a sorrow, missing my mom who died a year ago, passed away, and we hold you in love. From Kat, she's a joy that her son will be 9 months old this week. She can't believe that they've made it this far together. Know the feeling. From the O'Neills, Jim and Vera, we give thanks for Lisa's life as we celebrate her 42nd birthday and what she has brought to our lives and the world. That's wonderful. A joy from Amy Earhart Lovelace. It's wonderful to see new faces here today. All are welcome. It is a great joy that Rosa, whom you more than likely have heard of, she's been a person that we've been trying as a congregation to support in our justice work and helping her to get established and support her family. She has received her work permit and is able to clean houses on a regular or a one-time basis. I'm sure they'd be happy to have, yeah, I'll clap. It's been a long, hard journey for her. Contact Liz Trotter to arrange for, if you'd like to have her help you out. I believe that's all of our joys. Do we have any more or concerns? All right. I am thankful to see all your faces and to be here in person. In a way, it is a joy. I've been traveling and being with my other grandchildren all the month of June, and so I'm happy to be back and be with you if you do that. And then Cynthia will light a last candle of joy and concern for those who have not raised publicly what's heavy on their heart. Sometimes it takes a while. Know that we love you and hold you in any way that you will let us in this time of joy and concern and sorrow and even depression during these crazy times of ours. The generosity of members and friends enable this congregation to do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. It looks like we have another.
We just got one. Would you like me to read it? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hello.
This is Kat Diaz.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, stage fright. This is from Elise. I'm sorry, Elise, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I think it's Picchiotti. I have to say, as one who won't be able to attend in person for some time yet, this new online structure really doesn't work. Oh.
Maybe it's a complaint.
Okay. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. When the services were held on Zoom with the coffee hour afterward, I really felt like I couldn't attend and participate. There's more, but it's cut off here, so. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you, Kat. We all grieve that things are not as they were before. And soon, perhaps they'll get closer to how they were before. And so I will once again say the generosity of our friends and you, our members, support this church and its work within the community and beyond. You can share your offerings online at ccuunola.org, ccuunola.org/stewardship, or text 504-370-2659. Put in give, and it will prompt you to do your donation. For virtual donations, please note there's a 3% processing fee. You can also mail a check to CCUU at 6690 Fleur de Lis Drive, New Orleans, 70124. For those of you in person this morning, there's an offering basket, and you are invited to the offertory to bring your offering and place it in the basket. And we thank you very much for your support. Alan just handed me a couple of copies of his sermon. If you're hard of hearing and would like one, we can bring it to you right now. Okay. Alan Malone.
Good morning. I'm Al Malone. I think I know most of the people here. It's good to see so many people on the 4th of July. I have some readings. By the way, I've got to give a little commercial here. I've got to extend the commercial about the seminar. It's called The Shared Pulpit, and we've done it 3 times under the direction of Reverend Darcy, who went through Harvard Divinity School. She's pretty high-tooting. I've participated in it each time, and the end product has been a sermon, which I've presented. 2 of which are pretty good sermons. I hope this one is going to be one. One wasn't so good. But that's one of the things about the creative process. Sometimes you come on with something that just doesn't exactly work. But as we go through this, it's a very interesting thing. If you're interested in reading and or writing and public speaking, and it's very useful if you can produce one of these, whether you want to present it to the group or not, it's a fun thing to do. We meet every other week for 3 hours, and we plan this coming year to do it on Zoom as well as in person. So we haven't really worked out the details yet, but please let me know if you may have an interest in that. And I haven't come up with a schedule of our meetings, so it's still in a rather undeveloped state for this coming year. But if we have enough people to participate, we will be offering it to anybody. Anybody who'd like to stagger in off the street and sit in is welcome to be with us. Well, one of the things that Reverend Darcy likes is to have readings. She says, readings. I don't know why readings are so important, but we all had to have readings. And I have some readings. The first is by a friend of mine with whom I used to have breakfast quite frequently. His name was Kurt Schoen. He's not with us anymore, but he owned a few art galleries down in the quarter. And his words to live by were, there's no such thing as too much money. That's what he said. I heard him with my own 2 ears. The next reading is attributed to Bertrand Russell. He said it is preoccupation with possessions more than anything else that prevents us from living free and nobly. And the third one is attributed to Steve Martin. He says, I love money. I love everything about it. I bought some pretty good stuff. Got me a $300 pair of socks. Got a fur sink, an electric dog polisher, a gasoline-powered turtleneck sweater. He says, and of course I bought some dumb stuff too. There's a difference between a gift and a present. A gift is something special that one person gives to another at some special personal reason. A student of mine once gave me a glass beer stein with my initials engraved in the glass. I think it may have been one of those end-of-the-year thank you things from one of my students. But I thought it had a personal touch to it, and I always think fondly of that individual every time I think of that gift or look at it sitting in our kitchen. Presents, in my way of thinking, are more obligatory things we give to one another because it's expected of us, like birthday presents and Christmas presents, Hanukkah presents. I remember one day I was going through a closet in our house prior to a remodeling job. I made a pile of stuff that had been stored in the closet and discovered that there were quite a few objects still wrapped up in their individual packaging from various stores. Come to find out, they were Christmas presents that people had given me that I had thrown into the closet, probably because I thought it would be ungrateful to throw them away or exchange them. I had an insight about the value of presents at that time. For the most part, they were useless objects that somebody had gone to a great deal of trouble fighting Christmas shopping crowds to buy and wrap because the Christmas season demanded that I be presented with something from the giver to put under the Christmas tree. What a waste of time, money, and trouble. It came back to me when I recently read in a book entitled Nomadland and an account of an almost homeless lady who, in desperation for employment, had taken a job boxing up Chinese junk in an Amazon warehouse for just a little bit more than minimum wage. I think they get paid about $10 an hour, something like that. Here's what she said. Right now, I'm working in a big warehouse for a major online supplier. The stuff is crap, all made somewhere in the world where they don't have child labor laws, where the workers labor 14 to 16-hour days without meals or bathroom breaks. There's 1 million square feet in this warehouse, packed with stuff that won't last a month. It is all going to a landfill. This company has hundreds of warehouses. Our economy is built on the backs of slaves we keep in other countries like China, India, Mexico, and any third world country with a cheap labor force where we don't have to see them, but where we can enjoy the fruits of their labor. This American corporation is probably the biggest slaveholder in the world. Radical, I know, but this is what goes through my head when I'm at work. There's nothing in that warehouse of substance. It enslaves the buyers who use their credit to purchase that stuff, keeps them in jobs they hate to pay their debts. It's really depressing to be there. And that's the end of the quote. By the way, I don't agree that Mexico and India are third world, or much less China are third world countries, but that's what she said, so I had to read it as she wrote it. I, Al Malone, soon developed and suggested to my family a plan for the future. At times when presents were due, mostly on birthdays, the honoree would be the one to give the party. That person would also go out and buy something that he or she wanted. Along with that one present would go the freedom not to have to go shopping for anyone else's probably unwanted, unappreciated present, which stood a good chance of ending up in a closet like the one I was trying to clean out, eventually helping to fill up the space in the parish dump. My plan is working so far so good. The adults readily adopted my practice. For the younger members of the family, we gave portraits of dead presidents with which they could purchase whatever their little hearts desired. As of this date, everyone seems happy with the results. At times when we run across things that other family members might actually want, such as a good book or a sweater that somebody made with his own hands, for a beloved individual, we'd give and receive these freely with great appreciation in the spirit of gifts. We treasure things for various reasons. A man and his wife, who are friends of mine, are both artists. Photography is one medium in which they both practice, and they're both very good at it. Just after Hurricane Katrina, they discovered that the floodwaters that had inundated their neighborhood had destroyed a collection of negatives from some of their favorite past photographs. They were both devastated. They both sobbed uncontrollably when they told me of their loss. Seeing how depressed they were, I refrained from expressing my true feelings, which were these. Art feeds the artist. When an artist creates a work of art, he becomes a slightly better artist. The product, which is most important in my opinion, at least to the artist, is that increase in skill. That's something that can't be erased by a hurricane. To my way of thinking, these folks can now take some more pictures, create some new negatives if that is their desire, and those pictures should be even better than the ones they lost. So what's all the crying about? That's easy for me to say. They weren't my pictures. But once you've created something like these pictures, it makes sense to me for you to sell them, give them away, donate them to a museum, or do something else to get them out of your life. I sympathize with my friends, but I don't empathize. Out of respect for their pain, I spared them the sermon. Here's hoping they never have to listen to it. If you ever see my friends around, don't give them a copy of the sermon. The episode I'm about to tell you next happened sometime before the epiphany about the difference between gifts and presents. But the epiphany brought forth a memory of something I had run across years ago, and about which I am still struggling to make sense. I was sitting in a pilot lounge one day waiting for some passengers. Somebody had left a pile of art magazines on the coffee table, and I picked one up and started to peruse the articles. One was about a bunch of Native Americans from the northwest part of our country who had a big to-do about every 10 years, and they destroyed all of their art objects. That's right, they piled up the baskets, the pots, the blankets, the jewelry, and other objects they had accumulated over the last decade and had themselves a bonfire. I finished reading the article, put the magazine back onto the table, and thought I'd forget about it. But the more time went by, the more I kept thinking about all those people destroying their stuff. After a while, it started making kind of a weird sense to me. Their idea was that if they became too attached to their favorite object d'art, it would start owning them rather than the other way around. By knowing that you were eventually going to destroy your favorite pot, you could put your relationship to that object in its proper perspective. There may be a value added to an experience or to an object you have, knowing that someday it won't be there any longer. I used to have a favorite restaurant where the food was delicious and where the wait staff were highly trained opera singers who, along with some instrumental musicians, entertained the room while we enjoyed our dinner. When I was having a particularly enjoyable evening at this place, I'd sometimes think about the fact that places like this don't last forever. Sure enough, it no longer exists. But I think my pleasure at attending events at Mr. Henry's restaurant sometimes amplified my pleasure. Here's another episode that might give some food for thought. A few years ago, a group of young men who were studying to be Buddhist monks visited the school where I was working. These guys stayed for a couple of weeks with families from the school and some of the student families, and mingled with the population during school days, giving lectures and workshops to help our students understand what Buddhism was all about. One of their practices was to create a mandala, which was an intricate design using fine grains of sand, colored sand that they shaped on flat trays that sat on the ground, with the young monks kneeling around the edges, pouring the sand into them to form the design. They explained that working on the sand sculpture helped them to meditate. The mandalas were extremely beautiful and skillfully wrought. They looked to me like pieces of very fine art, something you'd like to keep and enjoy contemplating for many years into the future. At the end of their visit, the monks loaded their designs into an SUV, drove them to the Mississippi River, and dumped them into the current, never to be seen again. I think that action might have given our students some food for thought, much as the story of the Indians destroying their works of art had done for me, lo, these many years ago. Sentiment can lead to an unhealthy codependency between a person and an object. Marilyn had a collection of pottery that she had accumulated during a series of trips that we had taken to various places. In addition to being intrinsically beautiful, these objects reminded her of the good times we had had during those vacations. One day, a crew of carpenters came to our house to remodel a bathroom. One of the first things they had to do was to demolish one of the walls, breaking the drywall up with lusty swings of their hammers, sending vibrations through the wall and also through the closet, whose back wall sat adjacent to the wall that was being demolished. Guess what Marilyn had stored in that closet? Yep, it was many of the pieces of pottery that she had so enjoyably collected over the years. Much of it had been knocked off the shelf and onto the floor, where it had been broken up into little bitty pieces. The loss of this stuff was very painful to my wife. Part of the grieving process, however, was to anticipate the fun we could now have replacing these pieces with new ones, lovingly acquired on trips yet to come. Had these pots belonged to Marilyn, or had Marilyn belonged to them? In this example, I'm guessing that the accidental nature of the loss was a factor. If Marilyn had decided that the house was becoming too cluttered with bric-a-brac and had decided to donate some of it to charity, or had sold it at a sidewalk sale, she would have had some sense of control, which would have made her feel better about losing the stuff. Many of us live in flood zones and are under threat of losing some or all of our property as a result of some natural disaster. Think about the things you'd most regret losing in such a mishap, and it may help you to identify those objects to which you were attached by sentimental associations. Before I wind this up, I must share with you the result of a session I gave myself, sitting motionlessly staring at a blank wall in my man cave. By the way, I don't meditate. Meditation is not my cup of tea. I was just thinking, okay? I wasn't meditating. I was just thinking, all right? I was trying to search my mind for some example of an object that owned me, something I kept just because I couldn't face the prospect of parting with it. I could come up with only one thing like that. It was my parachuting rig, the equipment I used 50-some years ago when I used to cast my body out of airplanes for fun. The thing has been packed, lo, these many years. The rubber bands that hold the suspension lines in place have long since rotted to pieces, I'm sure. The giant spring that is supposed to launch the pilot chute out into the slipstream that used to drag the chute off of my back a second after I had pulled the ripcord has been compressed for all that time and has surely lost its springiness. It would be profoundly unsafe for anyone to strap this device onto his or her back in hopes that it would deploy properly and gently lower them to the ground. What's more, my bones have become so brittle after half a century of use that I would be risking a ridiculous series of injuries as the terminal velocity opening shock hit me, slowing me down from 120 miles per hour down to almost nothing in about 1 or 2 seconds, followed by a couple of minutes later by hitting the ground with a force something like jumping off the 3rd or 4th step of a ladder. But the rig sits there on the floor, and I look at it every time I come into my office. And somewhere in the back of my brain, it brings back a visceral memory of the thrill of free fall. So I'm not preaching from a holier-than-thou perspective. I'd really be unhappy if that useless piece of high-tech nylon and metal would be removed from my list of possessions. Perhaps I should take it out into the backyard, build a bonfire, and melt the thing down into a huge, undifferentiated lump. Then I'd be free of the feeling that that inanimate object is still something that helps to define me. It's the memories and some powerful but long-lost friendships that are what's valuable, not the parachute. I'm going to give it some more thought. There's no hurry, is there? What's your relationship with your stuff? Is it a healthy one? Give a thought to the things you own that bring joy into your life. Do you own them, or do they own you? Are you paying a bundle every year in insurance premiums for some object you're mistaking for an important part of your being? Or is it simply an accumulation of stuff, of detritus that is cluttering up your life that you have allowed to pile up through neglect, or the thought that maybe someday you might need it again? Think about it. Think about your relationship with your stuff, and consider acting to gain the upper hand over it, to assert your role as the owner rather than the owned. See if you dare to dump your mandala into the muddy current of history and free yourself of its power over you. Okay, for the benediction, I have some words from Robert Frost. Would you like to read them? Good. Oh, thank you. Oh, stand to go there. This word is misprinted in your copy.
Thank you very much, Alan. I have a lot to think about. A reminder from Robert Frost is our benediction today as we go forth. Nature's first green is gold. Her heart is hued to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf. So Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day. Nothing gold can stay. This ends our service today. Thank you very much for attending in whatever mode you did. If you're on YouTube, we're certainly happy you're with us. It's certainly nice to be here in person. Soon we'll be able to stay for coffee, perhaps. Thank you, and go forth. Enjoy. Perfect. I thought that was very good.
Thank you.